وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تعالى: قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. Amma ba'd, all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most magnificent, most beneficent, most merciful. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all his ni'mah and favors that he has bestowed upon us. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the divine guidance, the tawfiq and the life to be present in this gathering today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, in the way that he has created the human being, he has given a human being intellect, intelligence. And with that intelligence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him a human heart. And that human heart gets inclined towards different things in this world. And a person can be in love with wealth. A person can be in love with himself. A person can be in love with fame. A person can be in love with the opposite sex. A person can be in love with worldly things. Each person has different types of income. A person can love food. Some people can love food. They just love food, right? And this is just where the human heart gets its enjoyment or nourishment from. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the human, Kul in kuntum tuhibbun Allah, if you are going to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or if you wish to love. That means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that from all the things that a person can aspire for, a person can want, one of the most important things that a person can aspire for is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kul in kuntum tuhibbun Allah, if you wish to love Allah, or if you wouldn't want to be the beloved of Allah. There is also another hint here, that Allah's love is attainable. It says Allah's love is what? Attainable. Because Allah is saying that if you wish to love Allah, that means it's not that if a person desires the love of Allah and he's not going to get it. If you desire it, you will get it. And it's also attainable. You understand? It's attainable. And this is something important. Did Allah make here? Did Allah make any distinction? Meaning, except for these people, except for these people, except the love of Allah is attainable by everyone. But obviously, a believer is going to love Allah the way he's supposed to be loved. There's a difference. Take two infants, one slightly older than the other. One maybe 3 years old, 2.5 years old, and one an infant baby. The baby comes into the world, you introduce the baby to the infant child and say, this is your brother or this is your sister. Yes or no? Now the infant is super excited that they have a baby brother and they have a baby sister. And they go and squeeze the infant. Do they squeeze the infant out of love? Yes. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes.
But is that love dangerous?
Yeah.
So you say, no, back off. That's not the way. That's not the right way. Yes or no? We teach the child how to interact with the baby. Yes or no? There are many religions out there that claim to love Allah, to love God. But to love Allah in a manner that he's supposed to be loved is different. There's etiquettes, there's certain etiquette, there's certain attributes that a person needs to have. And a person needs to learn in order for him truly to fall in love with Allah and truly to aspire for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, there's many religions throughout the entire world that claim to love Allah. But their love is not in the manner that Allah wishes it to be. And how do we know that? Because Allah has taught us in the Quran that this is the manner that he's supposed to be loved. And this is what he doesn't want anything attached with that love. Allah doesn't want anything to attach. Allah is ghani. Allah is what? Ghani. Allah is independent, right? So Allah being independent, his love cannot be attached to anything else. It cannot be associated with anything else. It has to be truly for him. So Allah's love associated with shirk or some kind of attributing something else with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that type of love is not accepted. A love that is solely for the sake of Allah in the way that he has taught us. That is the true love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love is attainable. So that means that the most superior form of love is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And do we love with our minds or do we love with our hearts? Heart. Who says mind?
Both conscious and
I mean, that would be knowledge, and a love supported by knowledge, which is different. But the true place of where the emotion of love, where? But then there's intellectual love also. That means intellectual love is we know that we have to love Allah. We know that we have to give him preference over all things. And we know that Allah's love is rules supreme. This is all ilm that is supposed to this. Then ilm shapes that love. Ilm, knowledge, shapes that love. And we understand, okay, this is the manner that he's supposed to be loved. So we love him with our heart. There's emotional love attached with Allah, and there's also intelligent love that we consciously also love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why a believer, Allah mentions in his Quran, because his love is murakkab, it is not just emotion, it is also emotion plus knowledge, and the two coupled together is وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا. Those who believe, Allah puts a criterion here. A believer's love is very severe for Allah because his love is not just emotional. His love is also coupled with knowledge and intelligence, and he loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the knowledge that he has acquired in regards to Allah, but he also has emotional love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. A believer is most severe in his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means that the human heart has the ability to severely love something. Yes or no? See, the topic is different, but I'm going somewhere with what the human heart has the ability to immerse itself in love. Yes or no? And that kind of immersion will make you lovesick. Will make you lovesick. And to be lovesick for Allah is not a problem. But when a person, there's imbalance in his heart and he starts loving something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and usually it's the first love that a person experiences because he's never really experienced love before, and then he goes out and meets somebody, or she goes out and meets somebody, and there is this huge emotion that is attached with it, right? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love, that's why the human heart needs to be protected from all these artificial types of love, because you don't know when the human heart can attach itself to something, and that feeling becomes, and that emotion grows into a severe type of bond, a severe type. And sometimes the other person doesn't even know that you love them. And that's what type of love is that, right? But that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man was walking past, and the Prophet, one man says, I love this man that's walking past. The Prophet says, go and inform him that you love him so that he can also be mindful of your love, right? So he goes and informs that man that I love you for the sake of Allah. So the man says to him, may Allah make beloved to you those attributes that you love me for. Meaning the same attributes that you love me for, may Allah make those same attributes beloved to you. So, when you fall in love with somebody, or when you have an emotional strong bond with somebody, it's also good to inform them, as long as it is permissible to inform them. As long as it is permissible to inform them. And if it is not permissible to inform them, you go and inform your parents, or you come and inform me, and I will call them parents and inform them. But you don't do it. Don't turn up on their doorstep, Salaam alaikum, with a bunch of flowers that you see. It doesn't work. With the Desi families, it won't work. They'll shut the door in your face. All right? But khair, and then you've got off on the wrong step, and now you have to get somebody to fix it all for you again. All right? So there's a right way of doing things, and there's a wrong way of doing things. And if you do things the wrong way, and if you disrespect, if a person feels that he's been disrespected, you're gonna make it difficult for yourself. So khair. Last week we finished off on this. We completed on this question and answer, but we didn't get to go into the details. The question was that I have fallen in love with a woman, and at the same time I live with a person who's materialistic. And the Sheikh had advised him that you need to, the person you are living with who is materialistic, easy, just leave his company and stay away from him. And if you ever need to interact with him on a need to basis, right? Otherwise, the other person that you have fallen in love with, you need to completely move yourself from that company. Again, stop thinking about them, stop focusing on them, and you need to divert your attention to other things. So he writes back after, and we covered that last week, and this week, so he writes back and he says that I have started feeling a weakness in that person, in my heart being attached to the other person. It's becoming weaker now because of what you have asked me to do. Is becoming weaker. You can't forget, by the way. You cannot forget that you loved somebody. You cannot forget that you had an emotional bond with somebody. That would sort of we would have to somehow create a USB or a Wi-Fi that would connect to the human heart, and we'd actually have to delete that entire information from your heart and store it, and we'd also have to delete it from your trash can, and also have to delete it from your backup memory, because we don't know how many layers of backups the human heart has, and that's not possible currently. That's not possible currently, but the human, you can never forget a bond. You understand that you can still remember a bond, but obviously the intensity is not there no longer. The intensity weakens. So he's saying the intensity, not that he's forgotten the person, the intensity that he felt for that person has become weaker now by remembering Allah and by doing the things the Shaykh has prescribed him to do. It goes, I am continuously acting upon what you have been said, and I am also reading the books that you have asked me to read. I have been intending for many days that I read another book that you had mentioned. I've not had the opportunity yet, but I will read that book also. I recite La ilaha illallah 500 times. And sometimes if I, by chance, miss it, I try to act upon the other guidance that you have asked me to do. I feel, alhamdulillah, my state from before is much, much, much better. And this is all because of your supplications that you have made in regards to me. Otherwise, this sinful person was not able to get rid of the state of his heart that he was stuck in for such a long time. Shaykh writes back to him, alhamdulillah, what has been prescribed to you has been beneficial. This prescription will be beneficial for you at this time, and also many other places and many other junctures of your life. Because Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has spoken the truth. Inna likulli da'in dawa'un. For every sickness there is a cure. For every sickness there is a cure. He goes, even though I'm trying now, the students writing back, even though I have put all the safety precautions in place, but I still feel that the thought is still there, meaning the thought of that individual is there. And when that thought comes, there's a small little flutter in my heart happens, again, which is normal. And that flutter seems to give me a little bit of happiness, a bit of pleasure. But then I very quickly turn my heart towards another direction, and it's a fleeting thought that comes in, a fleeting moment of enjoyment, and that fleeting thought then disappears. It goes to, the Sheikh answers him that to have fleeting thoughts is tabi'i, it's natural. You cannot get rid of something which is natural, but you can't stop paying attention to it. So once this happens, the thought of the other person can still come into your heart, but then if you stop paying attention, you just don't pay any attention to it. You don't take that. You don't allow the thought to linger and take it forward. It goes, but remember, whenever you have this thought, it's super important and very important that you immediately take the precautionary measures that you have been taught, and and you are already doing those measures, meaning that immediately you get engaged in something else, and immediately you divert your attention to something else. Because this student writes back, because it's been 15 days, I somehow, for whatever reason, I had to go back to my village. That woman made salam to me. I didn't answer her salam. I just disappeared from that place. So answered, Jazakallah, Barakallah. Thank you for acting upon what has been asked of you, and Allah give you barakah. Because had you said salam, then another thought process would have started. Now that doesn't mean that he didn't answer her in his heart, right? But to start a discussion with somebody, why initiate something when that is not necessary. Remember, our parents got married how many years ago, do you think? 50 years ago? 50, 60 years. Yeah, approximately 40, 50, 40, for some 40, for some younger people 30 years ago. In those days, by the way, there was no WhatsApp chatting. Let's chat over WhatsApp. Let's do FaceTime. There was no FaceTime. There was no Skype. There was no Zoom meetings. Right? There was no telephone. They used to have telegrams, and even those were expensive. They didn't do those. Your family possibly might have went and chosen, the elders might have chosen your partner, or somehow somebody arranged it, but you possibly might have seen the person that you were going to marry, or you might not have seen the person that you were going to marry. But funnily, divorce was less rampant then than it is now. Now, you have to understand that divorce was less rampant then than it is now. There is more divorce now than ever any time in history amongst Muslims also, right? But there was less divorce. There was less breakups, right? People got married, and it was like the words, even though we don't have that in our vows, till death do us part. But literally, that was the intention, that's it. We got married, and that's it. Khalas, till death do us part. Not that it is necessary. Obviously, there are situations where till death do us part doesn't work, right? But there was no type of social media. There was no lingering about and talking. But when these our elders, when they got married, we witnessed a very deep love that was amongst our elders. And nowadays nowadays we want to talk for a couple of months. Nowadays we want to do this for a couple of months. Nowadays, they want to get to know each other for a couple of months. It wasn't there. Now, is it wrong? All right. I'll let you guys decide that. But our Sharia gives you a framework. Sharia gives you what? Framework. Two people get introduced, or two people meet. they like each other, they get the parents involved. The parents allow them to talk to each other within the privacy of the parents' home. Fine, no problem. As many times as you like, right? But you can't, if you really want to get to know the person, you can't get to know the person. I'm telling you that now. You write it in the wall, Mister, write it. It doesn't matter how many times you talk. You're never going to get to know the person until after marriage. After marriage, the libas. Libas means what? The cover that each person has and is laid bare. Your faults are appeared before her, and her faults appear before you. You could have estimated those faults, right, as a good guess, and you might be right also. But truly, you don't really know the person until after. There was this, I mean, they weren't Muslim, but there was this English couple that we knew of. Their entire lives, they lived together for like 20, 30 years without getting married. After 20, 30 years, they decided to get married. They got divorced in a year. Like, what changed in like the 30 years they lived together and then decided to get married, and then within the year, they're divorced again? What happened? Nikah is different. Nikah is different. Nikah is very different. When two people living together, it's different, right? So you can talk as much as you like, but you'll never really get to know the person until after nikah. So what is most important to see? The family, surroundings, upbringing, education, goals, objectives. If they're aligned, then you have something to work with. If they don't align, then you don't have much to work with, and maybe you should just move on, right? But today we have all the avenues of communication, right? And still think nowadays there's this new trend. So they make an engagement. So we're going to get engaged, but we're going to get married a year later. Or we're going to get married 2 years later. Guess what happens? They get engaged and they do a private nikah at the same time, so that it is halal for them to go out and, go to the restaurants and go out with each other, like dating, but halal dating, right? So what happens in that halal dating period? Guess what happens? A lot of things happen. And usually it ends up with the long-term relationships. There's always going to be fights. There's always going to be issues. But because of the nikah taking place, a lot of people also consummate the marriages without the parents' consent. All right. And that again puts another problem in the whole issue of this new concept of marriage. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Don't even go there. It doesn't work. Don't allow your children to go there. It doesn't work. If you want to get married, do nikah, do rukhsati, khalas, go to your home. Those type of marriages where 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, they don't work. Why am I talking about all this? Because of Sheikh here falling in love. And so he didn't make salam to her. So he goes, Sheikh said, you did good. But I did look at her, and I looked at her twice, but I immediately turned away from her. He goes, Jazakallahu khairan. That was his answer. But as I was lowering my gaze, I couldn't help but sneak a smile. So Sheikh, make sure next time you stop the smile also. Because after that small visit, as I was returning back home, I spent the time seeking Allah's forgiveness on the smile. Seeking Allah's forgiveness on the smile. It goes, after a mistake, that is the solution. Sheikh says to him, after a mistake, seeking forgiveness is the solution. Because there's no doubt that the woman's love has now become the intensity has completely worn off, and it's come very weak in my heart. And I have now started falling in love with my wife, which was, remember in the previous, it wasn't there. Even though he had, it wasn't there. But the love has not completely, the thought has not completely come out of my heart. It goes, look, the first is that this you move away from the person that you never have to face that person, number one. And if a fleeting thought comes into your heart and that is with intent, then obviously that is harmful. But if it is without intent, then it does not harm you. There's no harm to it. Stop. What did we learn? I have to go to the next one yet. It's also about love. What did we learn? You tell me, what did we learn? Young men, tell me.
The last thing you said, you have a thought and you don't have any intention, don't act upon it. I think since he had no intention to act upon, saying to the woman that you should avoid it.
So, and what do we learn from the whole story?
Getting attached to that is, of course, outside of your bounds to like approach or act upon it that's permissible. Prevent yourself from committing haram and go and seek forgiveness or try to live it.
What else do we learn, Faizan?
Like overall,
What have you learned from the exercise? It's important for everybody.
you should love Allah more than anybody.
Love Allah more than anybody else, okay? That you can have, somebody at home says that you can have control over your thoughts. You can actually control them. That's a good one. Yes. What do you say, Faizan, again?
I said that
You should Allah more. You should love Allah more. Obviously, that is the best. But what else do we learn from all of this? The young unmarried men, tell me first. Yes.
make avenues to exit the thought,
That's a good one. That if you find a method to actually eradicate these thoughts or to make yourself busy in something else. The idle mind is a playground for who? It's shaitan, yeah, the devil. Just don't be idle. Never be idle. Staying at home doing nothing is the worst thing a man can do. Man was not designed to stay at home. The manufacturing label says work, work, and then work. The more busy a man is, the less possibility of doing something stupid. But the more idle a man is, and the more he sleeps, and the more he chillaxes and relaxes and takes it easy in life, the more his mind will play. Remember, these things that are happening in society now is the idle mind. The busy mind's working. What else do we learn? Yes.
When you can't control your thoughts, control actions that will prevent you from taking the wrong ones.
Prevent actions that, okay, when you can't, okay. What else do we learn? I'm looking for a specific answer here.
That it's a process. Because then like there's proper steps.
It's a process. There's proper steps that a person needs to take. It's curable. Love sickness is a person who's lovesick is curable. But one of the very important things is how fragile the human heart is, right? That's a lot of times people are falling in love with other people and the other person doesn't even know that that other person has these feelings for them. And the human heart continues to like the thought of falling in love. And because it's a new experience for the human heart, it goes all out. So you don't want it to go all out. You need to hold those reins back and understand that, listen, what you're feeling is fine, but it needs to be done in a proper manner. You get it? Do not allow the human heart to fall in love with something so much that it starts controlling your emotion. Give you a small example. Who's a football fan here? Football, proper American football fan. Yeah. Who's a soccer fan here? All right. These are the people who are got brains, soccer fans. What's the skill of running with a ball? I'm only joking with you guys. Obviously, there's skill involved because they get paid so much money. I'm just joking with you, but you guys didn't get the joke. You're just looking at me like that because he's insulting American football. I'm not insulting American football. I'm just saying that it's more difficult to kick a ball than it is to run with one. I don't know. Try it. Khair. So I'm just hypothetically, we're going to all presume that you all love soccer for a few moments. So I can introduce you to the world of soccer. So like hypothetically, you all love soccer and you also hypothetically love the best team in the world, which is obviously we all know it's Manchester United. Okay, khair. But and then you also love to watch the Manchester United play in the European League, which is called what? The Champions League, right? And the Champions League football is, subhanAllah, you have the stars of all the world playing in those leagues. Now, when your team loses, what happens? Tell me what happens to you. Depressed, right? Some people get depressed. Some people get frustrated. Some people present themselves as anger. And you don't want to be caught with the opposite team's shirt after the game. Just imagine the opposite team has lost or the opposite team has won and you're wearing the opposite team's shirt. What's going to happen? Why? Why would somebody beat you up for wearing the opposite team's shirt? What if you wore it? What if that was the only shirt that you had? But why? Let's talk about why. The misplaced love. It's misplaced love. A lot of people who have very strong, super strong emotions towards football or superstars or anything else, and that they don't have that type of devotion with their spouses and with their children, it's misplaced love. Where you're supposed to have that type of emotion, you don't have. And where you're not supposed to have that type of emotion, you have. It's misplaced love. You're utilizing now that and that frustration of shouting and breaking TV screens and punching a hole in the wall when somebody your team didn't score. That's also the effects and the evil effects of artificial love. There's no reality. But the human heart, when you allow it to love something, it develops a love for it over time. Yes or no? Now look, the probability of a father who supports Manchester United and he watches the matches, his children, but I'm not saying 100, it's not 100 golden rule, but high probability that his children will also what? Follow Manchester United, and they will also follow the Champions League. Why? Why? Tell me why.
Because
but it's no, love is addictive and it's contagious. If the love of Manchester United can come into you, if I start explaining the sifat, the attributes of Manchester United, just by me mentioning the attributes of the team and the accomplishments and the development and the amount of money, do you think that the love of Allah cannot come into you by somebody explaining the attributes of Allah to you? Yes or no?
Sure.
So love of Allah is also what? Yes. Contagious. The love of Quran is also contagious, but you just have to sit in somebody's company who also has that passion for it. Yes or no? So what do we learn from this exercise? Number one, that love can be cured, but at the same time, so that our attention and focus is always directed in the right direction, and our love and the emotional love is also nurtured in the right direction, what do we need to do? Stay in the right Jazakallah khair. Stay in the right circles. If the father has passion for Quran, the children will have passion for Quran. Those children who became Hafiz and Alim, even though your parents have not become Hafiz and Alim, is also so key. Either your parents have love for those people who love the Quran, and they have love for those people who respect the scholars. That's why your children also become ulama and sulaha and huffaz. But it's coming from somewhere. That strain is coming from somewhere. You understand now? I thought you were very deep, something deep today. Or was it not deep? Kazim, deep?
Very deep. And how would you, like the example you gave with the sports and someone's passion, and then they won't have that same love for their families? And what's the easiest, other than staying in circles, like is there other, or is that just the best thing, just staying there?
No, I'll tell you very easily. I don't mind you for having a football team that you follow. It's a big deal. It's no biggie. Just don't do anything wrong. Number one. Number two, if they lose or win, what benefit did you get? What financial benefit did you get? What financial loss did you get? So it's just a financial. But okay, fine. It could be your bus saw you and you fired you. Yes. But if you have it's the way you look at and the way you approach. At the end of the day, you might feel bad that your team lost, but that's as far as it's going to go. They lost. What's the big deal? And there's no benefit of me in the world. And anyway, you understand? You have to control how much you allow yourself to be to fall in love with the game. You have to understand the game is just a game. Two teams playing, both human beings, both deserve respect. But you have to allow that. You have to put some reins on it. Nor if you don't put any reins on it, that's when it becomes extreme. You get it now? If Manchester United lost, so what? That's how I look at it. You didn't play well. You lost. So what? Learn from your mistakes, right? But you don't have to say, man, they lost. I'm upset. I'm depressed. Naudzubillah, those people who are not believers, what do they do when they get depressed and when their team loses? Yes, right? That's what they're going to turn to. We don't need to fall in love with sports to that level where you need to resort to other things just to pacify yourself because your team lost. If you need to pacify yourself, or if you need to do something else because your team lost, then that means that there's something wrong here. It's too much. There's an imbalance here. You get it now? They lost. So if they would have won, that would be great. Fine. Yes, for Manchester United, there's an exception. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. I mean, they finished third in the league. I mean, they could have finished better, but who cares? I mean, they should have played better. Right? But again, love for Allah is continuous and it increases. It doesn't stop, but worldly love seems temporary and short-lived. Yes, in some cases, no, in some cases. Worldly love, if you don't put some restraints on them, and if you don't put reins on them, and you don't pull it back, it will also continue. A person can fall in love with the game. I mean, look, there's people who are married, and they still spend majority of the time playing video games. Not mentioning any names. Right? But you think it doesn't make sense, right? Guy gets married. Look at the intelligence. Let's say logic. Guy gets married. He brings his wife home. They go for honeymoon. They come back from their honeymoon. And now at night when it comes time to sleep, he's playing his video games till 12, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock at night. By the time he goes to bed, his wife's asleep. An intelligent man would not do that. Intelligent. Only that. Now, if you're already married for a couple of years, you might have some leeway if she allows you at that time. But still, there is etiquette on being married. You go to sleep together. That's one etiquette. One etiquette is what? You sleep together. You wake up together if it's possible. But obviously, if it's Fajr time, obviously you're going to wake up together, right? So there's some etiquettes for everything. There's balance that you have to bring in everything. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop you playing halal games. If you're going to play FIFA, and if it's halal, then so be it. Switch off the music. And, if it's going to be halal, you can play the halal games. to a level, to the right time, not on salat times, but the right time, the right amount of time. Okay, no problem. But everything needs to be in balance. We're not going to get to the next part without us.
Can you ask questions
You can ask a quick question concerning this. Yes, not Man United. It was a-
No.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that over kahwa and chai later. You know.
We're talking about wow. On the students and the teacher, right? He said, when you see the person you have a connection, for a while, don't even say salam to him or her, not to bring back all stuff. Okay. On me, my ex-wife, I'm serious.
Okay.
Like,
I'm listening.
I tend when I see her, I tend to put my face down, not to even say salam to him, to her.
Good.
Because the reason actually, I still have feelings for her.
Okay,
Okay, but she does say salam to me.
that's
And
fine.
anytime she says salam to me, I get goosebumps.
That's what happened.
That's why.
Because
I try to neglect-
because
I don't wanna
you can't
neglect
forget
her,
her.
though.
You're not neglecting by not saying salam to her. But obviously you're trying to protect your own heart. And protecting your own heart is more superior than making salam to her. Or being good to her. You got to protect the heart. Otherwise the heart becomes, the heart is sometimes it gets attached to things and then it doesn't let go. Okay. Jazakallah khair for asking that question and sharing. نسم مراقبة الناس إن شاء الله. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasul. برحمتك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.